Hello, everyone. We are ready for lunchtime, and we are all at the lunch table today. It is always a good time when you can just sit down and take a breath at
Mhm,
lunchtime. And,
mhm.
today I have someone here who she has seen many fun lunchtimes, I'm sure. And I'll have to run all that by you once we started. I am so glad to be back time. We had we have some things going on in the kitchen. And so because of that, I've kind of been in and out this week and last week, but I'm just glad to have everyone here. And I know you'll be jumping in as time comes in and out. So we're just going to continue our conversation and have everything going. I see everything's in. So that's a good thing. So I have Mila Burgess. And let me tell you, Mila Burgess is a force to be reckoned with, girls. She is a powerful woman, and I am just so excited to have her here. We have been talking about Mila living your best life,
Mhm.
which involves, and this is mainly the conversation. We're at that point, you and I, where we've been through a major portion of
Mhm.
our life,
Mhm.
and we can look back and enjoy and see the wonderful things that we've done. But we have some words of wisdom that we can share for those who are still trying to navigate their way through this world and through every
Mhm.
day. And
Mhm.
so we're going to take a look at specifically, because this is your expertise. Now, Mila was a teacher, a principal. Of course, she's mom, she's wife, she's all of that, all wrapped up in one.
Praise
And,
God.
I am just thankful, that we have been able to actually, Mila and I have known each other for quite a while because of
Mhm.
church.
Yes.
And we've been in Chesterfield County for a very long time. And so I thought I'd bring Mila on today because, regardless of where you're located, you're going to hear some things that are going to apply to everybody. And there are going to be some things that she's going to talk about with regards to our children, getting our children ready. And, summer's coming, guys. And, I still have that excitement, Mila, of the end of the year, those grades done, and just doing the fun things at the end of the year,
Yes.
also knowing at the end of the year that we are trying to make sure that our children end well, and that their summer is in a good place. Hey,
Mhm.
Ann, we're so glad to have you. Ann Allen is coming in, so I'm going to kind of shout a little bit back and forth. So we got Ann who's coming in saying hello. We're glad you're here with us, and I hope you will enjoy today's show. But Mila's going to share with us a lot of information, and these are things that she's speaking from two standpoints. She's speaking, of course, as an administrator, but also from the standpoint of mom. And that's an important fact, is
Mhm.
Mila. I think you'd agree that
Mhm.
the mom end is the part that's going to be the most impactful.
Yep.
So we're going to try to just sit here and we're going to chit chat and talk back and forth because we have some concerns, and we see the population as far as children and the things that we're doing. We've got grandbabies, that we need to help and encourage our children to help them get through, the days as they come.
Mhm.
And so, Mila, first of all, just kind of introduce yourself and tell them a
Okay.
little bit about yourself.
I will. I will. And before I introduce myself, I just wanted to ask them to introduce themselves, the people who are on the chat. I love the chat box, and I love when I'm doing working with kids or adults to use kind of like the waterfall chat.
Mhm.
So go ahead and write in your chat, in the chat box, where you are, but don't push the button yet. Just write where you are. If you're in Greensboro, North Carolina, if you're in Charlottesville, Virginia, if you're in Myrtle Beach, Virginia, I mean Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, um, write it in the chat box. And then when I say go, we're all gonna push the button at the same time, okay? And then I'll see that waterfall and see where everybody is and cut this phone off first, Louise. So right where you are, so I can see where everybody is. And oh, um and beside where you are, put if you're a parent, if you're and if you're working, if you're at home, if you're an educator, if you're a business person, attorney, doctor, put that in for me, please, just so I can see where you are, what you're doing these days. And then I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, and we're all gonna push the button and I'll know, okay? All right.
All right. So we'll keep that going for a little while
Yes,
and get
okay.
people to come
Get
on
it
in.
going. All right.
All right.
So 1, 2, 3. Push your button. Let me see. Who's
Let's
there?
see. Ann must be, she's in and out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's going to take her a little while.
A
We've got
bit.
people who
Okay.
are on that are coming in through Facebook, so they can't,
Oh, so
we
they
won't see
can't do
theirs.
it. Okay. Okay. I got it.
Okay,
I
that's
got it. We
okay.
got it.
That's
We
okay.
got it. We got it. I like knowing that too. But I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and when you can get it in, get it in. If not, but I am, like she said, I'm Mila Burgess. I am wife to Keith Burgess. I am mother to Bradford Burgess and to Jordan Burgess. I am grandmother to Morgan Burgess, to Jaden Burgess, and soon to be Miles Burgess in July.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's a wonderful thing. I
yes.
did retire from education after 35 years as a teacher. I was a speech pathologist when I started and then became a teacher of children who learned differently.
Mhm.
And I became an assistant principal and a principal and retired after 35 years. And I'll tell you, I don't know if there's anybody here on the phone like that too, but I kind of failed in retirement, I would say.
I
In
did for a
retirement,
while.
Leona did too. I failed. I did rest that first year, you know. I just said I'm resting. I'm just resting and I'm not doing anything. Well, then the second grandbaby came, and I said okay, and so I was keeping him for a little while, and then started getting more back in the church,
Mhm,
and then people started asking me if I would do things for the school division, come back and do things,
mhm,
and I said yes, and so I did, and then I got an opportunity to work what I'm doing now, and I absolutely love it because I think you said something. Leona, I had at one point thought I wanted to get a PhD because I thought I
mhm,
wanted to teach at the college level. I do want to teach at the college level.
mhm,
And so I did after retirement, got a chance to teach at the community college for a couple of semesters before the pandemic. And then, right before the pandemic, I was asked to do a program at the State Department, Virginia State Department of Education. So I get to teach teachers, I get to teach administrators, and I
mhm.
didn't have to get the PhD to do
Woo-hoo!
that.
All right.
Even though I would have loved the learning, I love the experience, but sometimes you have to see what's more of a priority sometimes.
Mhm,
And so
mhm,
as a mom and as a, those were the things I decided. So that's what I do right now. And I work with three small school divisions in Virginia, trying to create positive outcomes for children,
mhm,
trying to help the school divisions look at the things that they are doing and
mhm,
look at if they're doing it with fidelity, if they're
mhm,
doing what they say they would do, and it is impacting all children in a
mhm.
positive way. So I love that. And
Oh, that's
I appreciate that.
neat.
Excuse me?
I said, that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
so that's what I enjoy doing. I love it. I love it. I love
Mhm,
it. And met some really nice people, and
mhm.
so through that way.
So you've been traveling to those
I
areas?
do. I go probably well, in the pandemic we weren't.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
prior to the pandemic, I would go to each school division about 4 times a month, and
mhm,
into the school divisions and meet with them and work
mhm,
on things with the superintendents
mhm.
meetings and their meetings and things. And so it's been really good to be able to help people, because I
Yeah,
know when I was in that position and in a building, I appreciated all the help I could get, and
absolutely.
outside looks,
Mhm,
and to bring perspective to things and they share with you things you
mhm,
may be missing, because when you're in the woods and you're in
mhm.
those weeds, you don't
Oh, I
really
know, I
know.
know.
So yeah, so it's always good to have that outside, yeah, outside help.
Absolutely,
So I try to be as
absolutely.
positive and as beneficial as I can. And I'm just so proud of you for doing this as you do, and making it your passion, and getting things out to people and letting people
Mhm,
talk. It's good to hear
mhm.
that your voice matters, or that people hear what you have to
Absolutely.
say, and that you can have that avenue to do that. Yeah.
It is, it is, and,
Mhm.
I have learned so much, and, the nice thing about, YouTube in general, and
Mhm.
Facebook as well, is that you meet so many people,
Yeah.
and, like, for instance, Anne that came on early, she's from Scotland.
Oh
Yes, yes, she's from Scotland.
wow.
So you're talking people who are out there, and I mean, it's
Yes,
amazing, and it is so much fun
it
to get
is.
to talk, and we find out how much we're all alike.
Yes.
And we are all in it together and
Yeah.
trying to navigate this crazy world that we're in that we are in the middle of.
Yes.
And I know that as school is coming to an end, some of our usual lunchtime followers are involved in school things that are going on, and some schedules are a little off because
Yes.
I know some of ours are off because of testing and all that stuff
Yes.
going on, and that's okay because they'll pick up later.
Yes.
But you know, I have an audience of homemakers, many of
Mm.
which are at home, are stay-at-home moms,
Yes.
and they have been struggling. Many of now, some are able to navigate, and it seems like they've been on a very even keel.
Yes.
They've been able to pick up with what needed to be done as far as the kids were concerned, and they've
Mhm.
been able to monitor, and which has been tremendous. But there are some who are still just a little shaky
Mhm. And
with
rightly so.
what to do. Absolutely.
And rightly
And
so.
so, I thought, with our children coming home for the summer, this summer is going to be very different from last summer. And of course, definitely different from the summer before. And so, our children, I think, have been in school long enough to be able to see where their strengths and weaknesses
Yes.
are. And what are some of the things that I
Yes.
say as a mom that we start to look at? First, we're going to look at their activities, those kind of things.
Sure.
But many of our children need help.
Yes, they do. And
And
you know what, Leona, if I had been talking to you 30 years ago, 4 years
Mhm,
ago, some of the things I might say today I would not be saying. I would
mm,
not be saying. And I
mhm,
think one of the things is that, and I heard you say that the moms have been navigating well, and they've,
mhm,
probably been organized well, and making
mhm,
sure that, if the kids were virtual or whatever, that
mhm.
they were on the screen, and that they were
Absolutely.
getting everything taken care of,
Mhm,
and all of that. But I've always, told parents, listen to your children. Even 10 years ago, just listen
mhm,
to your children. You
mhm,
don't have to be even in their conversation. Just listen when they're talking to their friends. Just
mhm,
listen when they're talking to their siblings. Just
mhm,
listen. You don't
mhm,
have to say anything back. You don't have to put your viewpoint in, but just
mhm,
listen. and I was saying that for their emotional well-being. I was just saying
Mhm.
that that's what you're listening for. You're listening for,
Mhm.
maybe tomorrow I might need to bring up a conversation that I can get back to what I heard them talking about,
Mhm.
instead of just getting into their conversation, because then that's when they shut down. We know that.
Absolutely.
If you can just hold on for a day or two and then bring it back
Go
around
out.
to address it, it can kind of go back, it goes
Mhm.
another way. And so that was, for their emotional well-being and to making sure they're there. But now we all have to say that we have had trauma
Yes.
over all of us. It could be
Mhm.
small, it could be medium, it could be big, but we all have had trauma. The parents, the children, the teachers, the
Mhm.
bus drivers, the everybody has had
Mhm.
trauma over these last 2 years, 2.5 years. So if we will just honor that and embrace it,
Mhm.
I would say to people, that's your first thing I think you need to be I would say to do with your kids this summer is make sure they're okay. Make
Absolutely.
sure they're okay.
Mhm.
So and I think we kind of get afraid to ask that
Mhm.
question, but everything that I've read and seen says ask it. Be very
Mhm.
direct. Be
Mhm.
very direct and
Mhm.
say, how you doing with your friends? How
Mhm.
are things? Are you making friends pretty well? Are you keeping your
Mhm.
friends? Just ask those direct questions.
Mhm.
Ask, are you sad? Is there anything that's happened in your school? Because we know things are happening in schools that
Mhm.
are they are yeah, they
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we can ask them, are you sad about things that are happening in your school?
Mhm.
I was reading an article the other day that a teacher in Tennessee, I think, he
Mhm.
was he was a fantastic teacher, was
Mhm.
student teacher of the year. And because the discipline was so out of hand in his school,
Mhm.
he is quitting the field. He is quitting as teacher of the
Oh.
year. So he is giving up his opportunity to be possibly become state teacher of the year
Mhm.
and then even national teacher of the year. So he just said that the discipline in the school was so out of control
Mhm.
that he just couldn't do it another year.
Mhm.
And it's happening all over the country. It's
It
happening
is.
all over the country. And
Mhm.
so our students are experiencing that as well.
Mhm.
Because all of the students who are watching this misbehavior, who
Mhm.
maybe get involved in it out of their control,
Mhm.
and so we want to ask them, how are you feeling about what's going on in your school? How are you
Mhm.
feeling? It's
Mhm.
the end of the school. How do you feel? Are you sad? Are
Mhm.
you okay? And then of course, we may think that our children, our little guys are too young, but they
Mhm.
aren't.
No.
Ask them, you
Mhm.
want to hear their voice. Ask
Yes.
them, what do you want to do this summer?
Mhm.
What do you, because we as parents are always making plans.
Yeah.
Plans Lance wanted to go to art lesson, music lesson,
Mhm.
basketball camp, football camp, karate. We're
Mhm.
always making those plans for them, but make sure we ask them, what do you want to do? Their voice matters. Their voice matters. Now,
It
if
is.
it's something that's far-fetched or it's just out of the realm of reality or whatever, then we'll talk to them about it. But ask
Mhm.
them, what do you want to do? And
Mhm.
how can I help you make that happen? But first
Absolutely.
of all, make sure that they are well,
Mhm.
because we've got some children, a lot of children
Mhm.
all over that are not well, that are
That's
not well.
true. That's so true.
That are not well.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily, it's not anything that, sometimes it is some things that have happened to them, maybe in their personal lives that are
Mhm.
traumatic or whatever. And we know that.
Mhm.
But a lot of our children have really, we've seen things come out of this pandemic that
Mm.
you might not have seen, or so we just want to make sure they're all well before we
Mhm.
move on to going to the beach and swimming and playing tennis and art camp and all of this. So
Mhm. Well,
mhm, yeah,
Kim's telling us, I'm gonna cut in 1 second. Kim's
yes,
telling us, she says she doesn't have children, but she
hmm
says sometimes she's noticing some things.
hmm
You can tell a difference. You don't have to have your own children,
you
Kim.
do not,
You can see things.
yes,
Just even observe. You can sit in a restaurant and
yes.
observe.
Yes.
And the mental health
Yes.
of it, it's mental health at home,
Yes.
mental health getting to school, mental
Mhm.
health at school,
Mhm.
and then trying to get back home.
And trying
You
to get
know.
back home. Mhm.
Mhm,
And then being in a space where we talk about what you just said, that we're all more alike than we are different.
mhm,
But sometimes we find ourselves in a space where we don't feel appreciated, or we
mhm,
don't feel I really, and I think one of the groups of children that I'm feeling so sad for right now is our
mhm,
transgender
mhm,
children. No
mhm,
matter how you feel about that, no
mhm.
matter how, they're still children. And it's
Absolutely.
something that is happening with them, whether you agree or you disagree, but something is happening to them, and they are in a situation where they
Mhm.
not comfortable when they go into schools on a daily basis.
Oh.
And it's just very sad. It's
Mhm.
very, very sad. Mhm.
Kim's saying that sometimes she, of course, she notices things, and she
Mhm.
said, with children in her family, her
Mhm.
question is that should she draw attention to it or mention it to the
Mhm.
parents?
Yes, absolutely, Kim. Especially if you have a good relationship with them. You know what we say to people always depends on the relationship that we have with them. But if you have a good relationship with them, it's almost your responsibility for the children's sake
Mhm.
to mention it to them, to their family. And sometimes we have to think about before how we're going to say it. But
Mhm.
one of the things is not to be judgmental, of course,
Mhm. Mhm.
but to just say what you just said. Hey, I noticed that Mila isn't interested in doing some of the things that she used to do.
Mhm.
Or I noticed that Mila is more in her room than she used to be when I come over. She doesn't come down and talk. Is she okay?
Mhm.
Those kind of
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
That's how we get to it and not just be so judgmental, because
Mhm.
when we come out judgmental, people start fighting back.
Yeah, they sure do. They
They
take
start
it
fighting.
personal, and they
Yes,
think you're saying to
yes,
them that
yes,
it's their
something.
fault,
Yes,
and it's
exactly.
not.
Exactly,
It's not.
exactly. Yeah, and say, I know that children have had a rough time here these last few years. Is she okay? Is there anything you need me to help you with? Or, so if we can just stay away from being judgmental and more um specific about what you're noticing, and
Mhm,
then offer any help and things that you can,
mhm,
is what I
mhm.
find is a good way to go about it.
Yeah, and sometimes, someone else sees the change
Yes,
because they're not there every day. So, Kim, in
exactly.
your case, you're
Yes,
able to see it, and it may be that mom and dad may not see it.
yes.
And, just a conversation just between you and the parent, light,
Mhm.
but yet and still caring, that, keeps that going and opens that
Exactly.
door. Because you always want the door to be open. And you
Mhm.
definitely want the door to be open, with the children and the parents so
Yeah.
that they can talk.
Yep.
And and sometimes that's tough.
It's tough. It's tough to have some of those conversations and things.
It
It really
is.
is. I think one of the things, and when we go back to talk about emotional health and mental health,
Mhm.
I always thought everybody that I've trained under about emotional health and mental health has always said you have, if you even think that the child is sad, and this is for
Mhm.
parents, this is for educators, this is for
Mhm.
everybody. You think the child is sad or depressed,
Mhm.
possibly, or whatever, because I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a clinical psychologist or anything like that. And I don't
Mhm.
say I am, but everybody that I've read up from or trained from says you have to bluntly ask that child that question. Have
Yeah,
you ever thought about hurting yourself?
that's right.
And
That's
I
right.
used to think, really? That
Mhm.
that seemed like I might be planting a seed or something, or
That's what I thought.
or yeah,
Mhm.
or but every professional says that if you notice it or
Mhm.
you think it, and they will respond, and they may say, "Oh no, no," or they
Mhm.
may even say, I've not thought about hurting myself, but sometimes I might think I'd be better off not in the family, or I better off not
Mhm.
at my school or whatever. And then that
Mhm.
leads you to know that you need to search and talk about to somebody or something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think just the pandemic in itself, the kids have had to make so much change so fast
So
and
fast,
instant change.
instant.
And where they were used to being with their friends and doing all the fun things that they normally would
Hmm.
do at school,
Exactly.
and then all of a sudden they're at home
And they're at home. They're at home, and they
and
don't
can't
have
go anywhere.
access. Don't. Mm-mm. And
Oh,
some of them were in happy homes or
that's
places they
right.
wanted to be, and some of them were not. School was their happy place for some of them.
Absolutely.
The teachers and the professionals were their safety nets and things, and that was
Exactly.
pulled right out from under them. And now
Mhm.
I'm in the house all day with an adult that I really don't want to be with, or I don't,
Mhm.
you
You
know,
don't trust,
trust. Yeah.
or you don't like.
Yep.
There are all
Yep.
kinds of home situations. I know
Yep.
if you remember back in the day, we had to do home visits.
Yes.
And I tell you what, I think as much as at that time I hated it, but I learned
Oh yeah.
more
Oh yeah.
going
Oh yeah.
into the home, having those home visits. It
Yeah.
spoke volumes.
It spoke volumes. It spoke volumes. And then that was what was happening a lot too with our children who when we went virtual just like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And teachers were on the screen and they were like, I need everybody to um open their screen. I need to see everybody's face on the screen.
Mhm.
Well, if I'm in a house that's in disarray, or
Mhm.
I'm in my bedroom that the walls need to be painted,
Mhm.
or I'm in my house where my um mother and father don't always have the right clothes on in my mind,
Mhm. Yeah.
whatever, and
Yeah.
they're walking through the screen.
Absolutely.
That was just adding another layer of anxiety to kids
Mhm.
too. Now you really are in my home. Now you
Absolutely.
really see what's going on with me. My
Mhm.
classmates see it, my teachers see it. So
Mhm.
that was another layer of stress too that
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
for our kids. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the things that I saw just with the grandkids was, seeing how difficult, looking at it from a teacher standpoint. It was, there are days where the kids are wiggly in the classroom, and especially this time of the year, everybody's off task and they've lost focus, during the last couple of weeks of school.
Yes.
But, at that time, the kids were adjusting to having to be at home and
Yes.
also adjusting to having to focus to that screen. And I'm thinking, as a teacher, I think I'd have a hard time, you know. And so it had to be
It
difficult
was
for
so
them.
difficult. I would be watching my grandson's screen on that, and they were first graders, and they were flip flopping over their beds. They were jumping over
Yes,
sofas. They were doing
yes.
everything, and I was like,
Oh, poor thing. When I saw my granddaughter, my youngest granddaughter, because she did kindergarten. No, she
Yeah.
did first grade and
Yes.
kindergarten on
Yeah, Jaden did half of
virtual.
K and half of, and all the first. Yep.
Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
mercy, mercy. And and she was so good.
They were,
She
yes,
was
they got
tuned
better
in.
and better and
Yes.
better. They put it all out there. They put everything they had, and
Yes,
they
they
got
did.
better and better and better. Those first days and weeks, I was thinking,
Woo. You'd have to walk out of the room to
I
laugh
did.
because you see the cat going across the screen,
Yes,
or you'd have the dog jump up on,
that's
so he
right.
can see
That's
what you were
right.
doing at the
That's
screen,
right. Or the
or they're
kid
just
would
trying to
be
eat
there, and
breakfast.
then the next thing you know, he gone, and the teacher's calling his name and saying,
And all the other kids are trying to see.
it was something else. So yeah, so
So,
everybody experienced some
yeah,
trauma. So we have to have some grace as we
we
try to get
do.
back to and I think that's what's happening in the schools where we're seeing so much discipline and stuff, is
Mhm,
that the think the principals and all the teachers, you're trying to give the kids grace because
mhm,
they've had some issues, they've
mhm.
had trauma, trying to give yourself some grace because you've had trauma.
Absolutely.
And I think the fallout or the end product has been just very difficult to get back on track and
Mhm,
say, and be consistent and to be
mhm.
yeah, so
And the year started out so rocky,
it did, and I think that
with
disappointed a lot of people. A lot of
yes.
teachers and things that I talked to people, they said,
Mhm,
we just thought this year was going to be so good, and we're going to
mhm.
start right off, and then it didn't. And
No,
so that was hurtful for a lot of folks and
it
disappointing for a
was.
lot of
It
people. It took
was.
them a
And
long time.
I don't know about you, but I know for me, if I felt like I was on task and had myself under control and what we were doing under control,
Yeah.
because as teachers, we tend to be I'm a little controlling. And I like, it's my classroom. I like it a certain way. And it's difficult, especially for new teachers.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, a new teacher
Absolutely,
coming
to come
in
in.
and
Yeah,
trying to make all these changes.
it is. It
It
is.
has been a real rocky road.
It has
And
been.
so, hey, Ronnie, we're glad to see you. You coming in.
Oh,
Glad to see you.
yeah. Hi,
All
Ronnie.
right. We we are talking about at this point, for those of you, hey Karen, I didn't see you. Hi. She's in as well.
Hello,
Um,
Karen.
Mila had asked earlier if you ladies would not only identify the fact of whether you're a parent, grandparent, educator, whatever you may do, also
Leona, I don't know if you froze a little bit or is that me? I don't know.
you probably had school going on. If you took additional classes, we all agree. Ron, you could hear froze. She said we did freeze. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Oh, there
Um,
y'all at. Mm-hmm.
okay, so as we're thinking about, we have a lot of young moms who are at that
Mm-hmm.
point of just thinking about life in general. How, when you were were younger and you had little boys and you were trying to handle the school, handle work, handle home. What are some of the tips that you give of just trying to make sure everything is done?
It is, I tell you what, I ran myself ragged trying to do that. I know that. I know that. And trying to just make sure everybody was where they needed to be. But this is um I don't know if it's generational or not, but I used to have conversations with my parents
Mm-hmm.
in my last school, particularly when I was principal. And this was, I've been out about 5 years now, a little
Mm-hmm.
over 5. And it just seemed to me that they didn't have the support systems that I had,
Mm-hmm.
which made a huge difference. So I
Mm-hmm.
would have those conversations with them because, okay, for instance, we would have morning um, math class support or something, or we'd
Mm-hmm.
have morning reading support. And so the parents would say, well, I can't get them here because I've got to be at work, or I've got to be,
Mm-hmm.
or they can't stay after school for something
Mm-hmm.
because or to participate in an enrichment or something like that. I can't because I don't, I don't want anybody to pick them up. And I
Mm-hmm.
would tell them, I said, well, you know what? I was in the same situation because if you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, I'm here every day with your children, which I love
Exactly.
to be.
Mm-hmm.
And my children are at a different school and at a different whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to do, and I don't have anybody to pick them up either.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why it's important to have a support system, a
Mm-hmm.
friendship group,
Yeah.
a elderly person at your church, or retired
Mm-hmm.
person at your church, or the retired neighbor in the neighborhood. Make an effort to get to know them. But this generation, they were telling me that they were a little afraid to do that. They
Yeah.
were not as trusting. And
That's true.
so, I don't know what that, but I would not have been able to do it without other parents,
Mm-hmm.
us helping
Mm-hmm.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have been able to do it without, retired friends and people from church and things. Can you just go pick them up for me today and bring them to me, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever? Because my husband was working too and things. So I think that's very important, is to have a
It
support
is.
group, to get, because you cannot do it by yourself, and you cannot do
No.
it all if you
No.
want them to be able to do it all. If you want your kids to be able to do it all, because you can't be in one
Absolutely.
place at one time. And so, yeah, I think that's very important. Got a question or anything? Or
Oh,
oh
yeah.
yeah, oh
Karen
Lord,
say that her children are grown, but she had
yes,
twins. She said there
yeah,
was a challenge. She taught a 4 and 5 year old. She taught four
mm-hmm,
and 5 year olds at a daycare. She
yeah,
said she was lucky. Well, it looks like she was lucky because her mom helped her out a
that's
lot. She was
right.
an educator and she taught for 30 plus years.
Yes,
What a blessing.
it is such a blessing. My mother was
Hmm.
3 hours away, but if I would
Oh,
call her, she'd be
hmm,
here in a hot minute if I needed
hmm,
her. When they
hmm.
got chicken pox, she was here the next
Yes.
day, and I could go to work and I could do things when they needed,
Hmm,
to be in summer camp or whatever, and I was working or whatever. She'd be here
hmm.
and get it done. But yes, and then like I said, I had friends that we just would help each other. Um,
Hmm.
and
It
that's
is,
very important.
and sometimes, I know it's tough with your neighbors,
Yes.
trying to trust people. But,
Mhm.
if you could find somebody who's close or maybe doing some of the same things that you're doing.
Mhm.
Ronnie's saying that when her boys were young, she would run around
I
like a
I
chicken
know
without
she
a head.
did. I
I'm with you.
know.
I'm with you.
Been there. Been
No
there.
support
Yeah.
at all.
Yes.
And she thinks it might be a little easier now for young moms.
I hope
Well,
so.
I
I
hope
don't
so,
know.
but
I don't
if
know. Some of
it,
them,
I'm
yeah.
not sure
I'm not sure
because
either.
I can think back to when we first moved to Virginia,
Uh-huh.
and that's been 30 plus years at this point. But when we first moved here, we moved to across 2 states. So all of our family is
Yeah.
in the other state, including my mother, who
Yeah.
I begged to come to Virginia, please, because I was so spoiled because she was always there
Yes.
prior to that. And she would drop what she was doing if I needed her. The kids were
That's
sick,
right.
need to go to the doctor or whatever it was,
That's
she
right.
can handle that. But having to have not having a grandparent or a relative close,
Yes.
that's tough.
It
That's
is
really tough.
tough. It is
And
tough.
I can certainly understand moms being a little hesitant
Yes.
because I can tell you this. It wasn't at the church where we are now, but we had some friends that were at a previous church, and I allowed my daughter to go, and she spent a couple of days with, well, not directly, but she
Yeah.
spent a day or so with this young lady over, did sleepover and whatever. And when I went to pick her up, I was in shock because woo, one house was off the chart. And you know what? To see that person on Sunday, so prim and proper, and then to see what was going on at home, I looked at my daughter as I drug her down the steps and out the door because she was having such a good
Good.
time. She didn't want to go. And I thought I was going to have to knock her out just to get her out of that house. When I got her to the car, I tried to calm down. I said, honey, she said, well, mom, but so and so wants me to spend the night. I said, oh, that's so nice. Not tonight. So that was always not tonight,
Not tonight.
because not, I'm thinking not ever. You go back in that household, but you don't always know
You don't. You
the
don't.
face that you see. You think,
Yes,
or,
and that is so very true. Yes, it is. It is. And
so
so you
you know,
really have to get to know the people or whatever if
yes.
you're gonna trust them for a very long time. Because as Leona knows, both of my boys played AAU basketball, and
Hmm.
they were all over the country and all over the place. And had I not and I think, and the moms and I of the team, we're still very close. We
Oh, that's
travel
nice.
together and we do things. We go to lunch and dinner and things
Hmm.
together because we did have build that trust with each other because we were
Hmm.
all working.
Hmm.
Um, and we knew that okay, to get to practice on time, I'm gonna need to drop this son off at your house, and then I'll take the
Hmm.
other son to practice because my husband has to stay at work late, and so yeah, so we did develop that trust over time,
Hmm.
and it does take, yeah, it
It
does.
does, it
Mhm,
does.
mhm.
We've got Kimberly Davis on today,
Hey,
and Kim said
Kimberly.
that she's working around the house and listening. And thank you, Kim. I'm so
Hi,
glad you're here
Kim.
with us.
Hi,
And
Kim.
it is we are just enjoying the
Mhm.
time of being able to sit down, and
Exactly.
it's nice to be able to sit down. And sometimes I even think about this, and I do this. I kind of do a health check with my own children.
Yes.
How are things going? And of course, my son, I'm a couple hours away from him, and I know you just got back from yours, which I can't imagine because you're almost pretty hands on like I am.
Very
And
handsome.
and then to have your children move that far away,
Yeah,
that's tough.
it's
That's
tough.
hard, and it's hard in here
It's so hard in
because
the heart.
you can hear their voice
Oh
and
yes.
know when
Oh
they
yes.
need help.
Oh yes.
And so I do a mental check every now and then.
Oh,
Okay, how you doing?
that's right.
How's it going?
That's right.
Because my daughter finished up her degree and her master's, and she was handling a big job
Whew.
and leaving there, coming home, because most of
Yeah.
it fortunately was virtual, so
Good.
she could do a large portion of that. But then the time came where she really had to go on campus. And she's blessed with a great husband who was
Yes.
between all the two households. We were able to navigate what needed to be done.
That's right.
And but family, being able to say, Mom, uh, can you go pick up so and so because
That's
such and
right.
such has happened?
That's
Mom's,
right.
I'm in the car.
That's
I'm
right.
rolling.
That's
And,
right.
but that goes for my 2 hour away child as
Yeah,
well too.
no, that's right. Because when
He
they
has
call, you
he
get on that plane and you go for me.
That's right. You just drop what you're doing.
Yeah.
And Kim is saying here, asking for suggestions for
Ah!
grandparents who feel like they're carrying more of the load than the parents. Oh Lord.
Oh, Kim, it's funny that you say that because I've been in that situation. I've been in
Mhm.
that situation. My younger son and had a child in college.
Mhm.
He was almost, when he was born, he was about to turn 20.
Mhm.
And I know that that was going to be hard. And for any of our parents that oh, we're on here, you know, when your child is in college, you want them to meet that end goal of getting that degree. And I
Mhm.
was not going to let anything stand in the way of him getting that degree.
Absolutely.
So I stood in the gap. His dad and I
Mhm.
stood in the gap for him
Mhm.
until he finished college.
Mhm.
And it was a lot.
Mhm.
It was a lot,
Mhm.
especially,
Yes.
after,
Yes.
your kids have gotten grown and whatever like that.
Mhm.
But I think what I was just trying to say is, I think if you know why you're there, why
Mhm.
you're carrying that load,
Mhm.
and if that load, and if it's necessary, and if
Mhm.
the kids are having positive outcomes because you're carrying that load, that's what keeps you going.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes I was appreciated and sometimes I wasn't.
Mhm. You
by
know, I've been
all
there.
the stakeholders, by all the
Yes.
stakeholders.
Yeah.
And I just had to keep my head on and say, I'm doing
Mhm.
this for my grandson. I'm trying to make sure that
Absolutely.
he has what
Mhm.
he needs and he's
Mhm.
developing where he needs to be. And
Mhm.
so I think if we just kind of keep that goal, or that in front of us, as to why we are carrying that load,
Mhm.
helps us, I think.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot.
Yes.
I know I've seen far too many. Hey, Deb, I have seen far too many grandparents, and I can say this. We had one grandmom. She was wonderful, as you know. She really was the parent. To
Yes.
be honest with you, she
Yeah.
had to take over, and it was. But she was 75
Oh my goodness.
with a middle schooler.
Oh Lord. Oh
I was
no.
pulling my hair out, and so was she.
Woo.
I think we talked on the phone probably at least twice a night,
Yes, yes,
just
yes.
trying to
Because
give
when
her
she
support.
yes, when she had a middle schooler, things were different.
Mhm,
Things
mhm,
were, yeah, it just, oh, I can't even imagine. I tell my sons all the time, please take care of your families, because I
mhm.
don't want to take care of them like that.
That's
I
right.
will if I have to. I will if I
Absolutely.
have to.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
that's just hard. That's hard.
You're right. I think most of us as parents, we are willing to step in when we need to, and certainly that comes, but
Yes.
and we do it in love.
Yes, we
We're
do.
doing it for them because we love them. We're also doing it because of the children,
Yes.
and they're the main part. The grandbabies
It's the
are the
main.
ones that we
Yes.
try to focus on because, you know, sometimes it's a heavy load. I know what you're saying, Kim, and
It's
sometimes
a heavy
there are
load.
some days when you just kind of go, "What
Hmm.
was I thinking?" You know,
Exactly.
but
Exactly. Yeah.
at
And
the same time,
reach out for help
yeah,
though. Reach out
yeah.
for help, because there are grandparent organizations that,
Mhm,
if nothing else, to have another person to talk to, to
mhm.
just have someone else that's in the same situation to talk to. But yeah, reach out for help and say, hey,
Yeah.
because care if we, in our age, caring for young folks, that's like caring for someone who's ill, being a
Mhm,
caretaker.
mhm,
And you need some respite sometimes, particularly if
mhm.
you have to have them all the time, or yeah. So reach out. Yeah, reach out
Yeah.
for help.
And I that's happening more and more. And part of it is because, well, a lot of parents are having to go back to school.
Yes.
And some of that's happening because, since the pandemic, because they lost jobs,
Yep.
they're having to retool themselves.
Yep.
So they're having to go back to school. So that means if they have a parent that's available, that parent's trying to carry the load so that they can go to
And
school
they can
and
do what
get
they
what
need
they
to
need
do.
and then do what they need.
That's
But
right.
when you know you're carrying the load for that reason,
Yes.
then it might be tough. and there
Yeah.
might be some rough days, but you can get through that
You can get through it.
because you
You
know
can
there's
get
an
through it.
end to it.
You can get
But
through it. Yeah.
then
But
there
I
then
know there are people who have situations where, their children have become addicted or
mhm,
um mental illness,
mhm,
whatever reasons, they just
mhm,
cannot parent like
mhm,
they you would think they should be able to, and the grandparents have to just step in, and that
mhm.
is more than that. Okay, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel in 2 years,
Right,
3 years. That's, yeah,
right. Yeah.
that's hard. It's
And
hard.
that's when it is. That's when it's hard because you don't
Mhm.
know when the end is.
Mm-mm.
And I know with this particular lady, she was a sweetheart. But
Mhm.
I'm thinking in the back of my mind, okay, he's gonna, he was a sixth grader. And so thinking of how many more years he had before he hit college, hopefully,
Yes.
and thinking of how old she was going to be at that point, should this situation continue.
Mhm.
And it's rough.
It is rough. It's rough
It's rough.
physically. It's rough mentally because we
Yes.
all know how you got to stay ahead of them, and you got
Mhm.
to be thinking one step ahead of them, and all of that, and it's a lot.
Oh, you're right.
Physically, mentally, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, yeah. Now, Kim
Mhm.
said, well, she's not the grandparent. She says she does see some of her family members who are grandparents carrying a load.
Mhm.
And she's trying to think of ways that she can help the grandparents from another city.
Ooh.
So, you know, um, Mila, you can jump in first and
Ooh. No,
that's
you
a
go
tough
ahead too. But I just
Woo.
always think, like I was just mentioning before, that respite piece. While you
Mhm,
might not be able to be there and stay at the house with the kids, or
mhm,
take them to the park or something, maybe if the grandparents maybe said, you know, um, they want to do this soccer camp this summer or something for a
mhm,
week, all day long, every day.
mhm,
Maybe you might be able to help pay half of it if you can't pay the
mhm,
whole
mhm,
thing, but pay
mhm,
half of it, or even help them research. Because sometimes you get
mhm,
on the computer and you're looking for things for kids
mhm.
to do, and you go down a rabbit hole. You're there for hours
Hours.
trying to find something. So maybe, you get on the computer and look for opportunities for
Mhm,
that age children in the city
mhm,
for them, and say, hey, did you see that they're having this or they're having
mhm,
that? Or, because when you're trying to cook and clean and take them to
mhm,
school or do homework, or sometimes you just don't have that extra time to do
mhm,
those things. So some
mhm.
other things. Were you thinking some other things, Leona? Yeah.
Well, I know when with ours, what we will do is that, we take ours and we'll take them for a couple of weeks or a month,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes down to the beach with us.
Yep.
And just to give
Yeah.
home and mom and dad a break
Yeah.
because we know they need it.
You
And
know they need it.
and each they're navigating three different schools, three different everybody's got a different sport,
Yep.
and so everybody's going in a different direction.
Yep.
And so, we pick up when we can, if we can,
Mm-hmm.
if when they let us, we'll pick
Yeah.
up when we can. And because they're trying to do it all, they want to,
They
know that
want to
they
do
can
it
do it.
all.
They
That's
want to do
right.
it. That's
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I like the idea
Yes. I
of
like
maybe
that idea too.
Kim, you might do the research
Mm-hmm.
and for them to just
Mm-hmm.
give some suggestions. This is going on. Had you thought about that?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know about you, but I'm real good at saying, send them to me for a week
Yep.
just to kind of get them out of the house. And you
Mm-hmm.
have in your place some activities for them to do. Because when
Exactly.
the kids come to me, we are booked every day.
Busy every day, Leona. My
We get
mother
up
used
at
to do the
7 o'clock in the morning
Yes, my
and
mother
they
used
are
to do
knocked out.
the same. My mother used to do the same thing. The boys would be so
Mhm,
excited. School would close. When
mhm,
are we going to Grants? When are we going to Grants? Because they knew she would have for that month or 5
mhm,
weeks. She had something for them to do
mhm.
every day,
Every
and they
day.
would see their cousins and
Mhm.
all of that. So they looked forward to doing that, and we look forward to them doing it too. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And I laugh and I tell my mom, I tell my daughter that when she comes to pick them up at the end, I'm usually sitting there on the
I know
couch with my tongue hanging out because I am so exhausted, and because they gonna wear you out.
they
And,
wear you.
but it's okay. It's a good tired.
It's a
It's a
good
good
time because
tired.
there's that
And
light at the end of the tunnel. And
mhm,
I'm like I said, I'm doing this to give them some respite. I know it's not, forever. And then
that's
I
right.
enjoy being around them. Yeah.
So Kim says she says she can do both of those things. Oh, that
Yes.
would be cool. Where
Yes.
she could pay for something and do a little research. I didn't,
Yes.
Kim, I didn't know
Just
you
had
were
the
a
grandparents.
librarian.
I know
Oh,
my mother was a librarian
I
also.
see.
Yeah.
She's had the grandparents down to her home for a
And
week
that's
of
great.
respite. Oh, that's
That's great.
nice.
That is
That is
great.
nice. And that's wonderful
That's
because
all of that's helpful.
sometimes
Mhm.
they just need a
Mhm.
moment
They
to
just need a
breathe
moment.
and
Mhm.
just, that aha
Yes.
moment
Yes.
and just to be able to take a break. But,
Yes.
back to something that you were saying, as I think back over my I had 35 as well years, and we won't even add on the other years that I added in subbing, but as I think back over those years, so much has changed. We have a larger population of parents who really are they themselves. They're young,
Mhm.
very young.
Yes, very young.
And because of that, they're learning while the kids are trying to learn.
Yep.
And that's tough.
It's
That's tough
tough.
because for me, mom was old enough to where she was a woman, she was a grown woman by the time, I came along.
Yes.
And so she knew what the parenting was all about or
What
what
was
should
to
be,
come and to
even
be
though it was new
expected.
and I'm
Right.
an only. But, as you think about young parents, I know when I taught in the city of Richmond, and I had so many
Young.
18-year-old
Yes.
parents.
Yes.
And, when you have parents that young and you're calling to say, that there's a situation, you need help or you would like for them to help with so and so,
Yes.
and they're trying to live their life
Yep.
as well as trying to get the kids to do what they want to do. And
Yes.
that's a whole new ball game.
It's a whole
And,
new ball game.
and the
It's a
numbers
whole
are
new.
growing.
It's the numbers are
And
growing. Yep.
so, it comes to a point. I know I brought this up. I had a chance to go on PBS for something they had going on, and so my question was, it was dealing with we had the whole Richmond area encompassing, everybody, and right, the
Mhm.
whole works, and a lot of teachers that were involved. And my question was, what are you going to do for the parents,
Yeah.
young parents,
Yeah.
because some of them have not had a good educational base
Mhm.
and they need training themselves.
Yep.
And we're asking them to help with homework and all of these things.
Yep.
I had parents that couldn't read.
Of course. Of course.
And so when you have parents who are struggling themselves, you know, some of them were lucky enough to have children who were sharp as tacks and who knew more than they did.
Yep.
And so they were taking information home and sharing it with
Exactly.
mom and dad.
Exactly.
But that
Exactly.
but the number of children where that happened
Exactly.
wasn't,
Mhm.
far
Yeah.
outweighed
And
itself.
then add the layer on of a second language.
Yeah.
Some
Oh,
families
Lord
that,
have
yeah,
mercy.
don't speak, and the children are having to translate
Yes.
to the parents what they need, what I'm supposed to
Mhm.
have. That's why
Mhm.
in this job that I work with now with the three
Mhm.
school divisions, one of the things
Mhm.
that I am trying to work with them on
Mhm.
is what is labeled family involvement. But what
Mm,
I've been sharing with them is that really, guys, we got to go beyond involvement to
mhm.
engagement.
There you
And
go. There you
engagement is something different for every parent.
go.
Where
Mhm,
it's different. So as you've got your parent who's not all of us struggle at some point or another,
yeah,
but that
yeah.
parent who you think is okay and can get the homework done, and you don't,
Mhm,
and when you call them, they're there, you always
mhm,
can reach them. Okay, so now how are you going to engage that parent whose child is late every day, but then when you call them, you can't get them on the phone to talk about, you can't
mhm.
get them, so you can't just do involvement, you got to do engagement, because you got to find out
Exactly.
what is going on that is keeping you from answering my phone calls, first of all, to school. What is happening that the child is late every day, or
Mhm.
or whatever. So that's where that engagement piece comes in. We got to really get in there, because everybody's situation is different, and
I
we
know.
got to really
I
figure it out.
know.
Hmm.
I had the pleasure of working with a lady who actually she lives a neighborhood over, and but this young lady had 6 children.
Mm. Mm.
She was only 26.
Woo, woo.
We're talking stair steps,
Yeah,
and so she was overwhelmed.
of course,
Um, Needed a lot of help, to
of
be
course.
honest with you. And I really worried about her
Hmm.
because I think the stress of what she was doing was just about to break her.
Hmm.
And so it was cute in that her son, things you aren't supposed to do. So you play dumb. So her son was a great basketball player,
Uh-huh.
but and I was a scorekeeper. So you know how he got to practice and got home
That's
from
right.
wherever he was going because I had to travel.
That's right.
So with them, so I made sure he got where he was supposed
That's
to
right,
go
Leon.
because
Hmm.
I knew what
Yeah,
she was going through. And
exactly.
my husband was sweating every moment.
I know
Oh
it.
Lord, Leona, don't let anything happen.
That's
And
right.
but the bottom line of it is that there are so many things that can get in the way. And if I think as really good teachers, we've gotten to the point where we can't be just a teacher.
Yeah, we
We
can't.
can't just give
Yeah.
out the information.
No, if you think that, you're gonna have a rough road. You're gonna have a
And
rough road.
we're mom sometimes. Sometimes we're dad.
Yep.
Sometimes we're the grandparent.
Yep.
You
With a
know,
referee trying to
yes,
help them learn how to get along with
yes,
each other.
with each other, and
Yeah. With
we
everything. Yep.
wear many hats,
Yep.
and then sometimes, like in this case, she was like the daughter
Yeah.
almost,
Yeah.
and that's to the mom,
That's
and
right.
you never think you'd have to step into that position
Position, but
as the
yeah.
educator,
But when
but
you
we
see
wear an awful
situations,
lot
we
of.
do whatever it takes, don't
That's
we?
right. That's right. But he had a wonderful year.
Good.
And it was so cute because all summer I the doorbell would ring and there he was on my front step.
Oh,
And my husband just thought it was so
I
funny. He
know.
said, I was so glad to get rid of my teachers at the end of the year. He said, yours come to your house.
That speaks volumes.
I
It
told
speaks
him, I said, he
volumes.
knew he could get a popsicle.
That's right. And a hug, a popsicle
Oh,
and a hug. Yeah.
yeah. But then after COVID, we couldn't hug.
No, we couldn't. No, we
And
couldn't.
so, that has made it hard because, and that was one of the things I think when I subbed, you'll love this. I went to an elementary school. I won't call it, I love, but garden. I had phone calls days later of the other kindergarten teachers. Can you come and sub for me? Can you sub for me? You had great discipline. Your kids were doing something. I'm thinking, Girl, if you only knew when I came home, because I
Out of
kept
that
them for
kindergarten class.
they kicked my behind,
I'm
and I was exhausted
tell
every
you that
day.
is, my hat goes off to all of those kindergarten teachers. It really
Oh,
does. Because if
I.
in my building, if we didn't have substitutes, then
Mhm,
as the principal, I'd have to go and fill in, or the assistant principal until we could get us up or whatever.
uh-huh,
And so sometimes we look at the list, and it might be a kindergarten old vacancy that we hadn't
mhm,
filled, and maybe a fourth or fifth grade.
mhm.
I'd look at my assistant principals and I say, I want the fourth and the fifth grade one. One, I can't be in kindergarten all day long. I just can't be in there. I love them, but they
They
wear me
are.
out.
They are
Wear me
so,
out.
but they're so cute.
Yes.
And I told him, I said, I would come home and I'd share. Of course, Conway really wanted to hear what had gone on all day. But, because I mean, I would just sit and laugh
Yes.
because they really were funny,
They are
but they were
funny.
good.
Coming into their
And
own.
I told him, I said, the funny part was one afternoon, uh, one of the little fellas, he had came and he got me by the hand, and he just held on so tight, and they were looking for him. Because it wasn't my school, I didn't know the buses. They were on the loudspeaker looking for him. Well, I didn't know him well enough to know him, really. And so I just knew he had me by the hand. So somebody saw him and said, "So and so, they're looking for you over here on the bus." And so he looks up at me. He said, "Are you going home with me?" And I said, uh, "You are so cute. Let me walk you to the bus." And put him on the bus. And
I'm
so
not going with
I'm
you, and
throwing
you're not
kisses.
going with me.
You are so cute, bye.
Ooh,
But
they can keep you in stitches. Yes, they
they
can.
do. But our children need to have people in place who
Yes.
love them.
Yes, they do.
And I'm not
And
sure
that's not just the elementary, it's middle
that's
and
right.
high school. And I
You're
think people
absolutely right.
forget that about our high school students, that
Mm-hmm.
they are not adults. They are
No,
not adults. And
no.
they need the same nurturing, the same
Mm-hmm.
safety nets and things that they needed when they were in elementary school. Because
You're
yeah.
absolutely right.
Hmm.
I got to sub at over at a high school for an entire semester, and I hadn't been in a high school in years,
Yes.
and I tell you what, high school has changed.
Yes, it is.
And so the first day, I know they thought I was a crazy woman because I mean, honey, military sister
Yep.
came in because
Yep.
I wanted them to know. I know you've had several subs in front of
That's
me,
right.
so you're
That's
not
right.
gonna run over me. So
That's
we gonna
right.
we gonna we gonna get it straight day
That's
one.
right.
But after that, then they were like babies. They
Yeah.
wouldn't go to class. You pushing them out the door. Go to class. Go to lunch. Give me 5 minutes. I go to lunch. They'd show up at lunchtime just
Yes.
as nice.
Yes.
And but I saw their big bodies.
That's
But
it.
they still need the same thing. They
Mhm.
need that hug. They need
Mhm.
somebody to talk to.
Mhm.
And I think as teachers, we're safe.
Yes.
We're safe.
Yes, we are.
And I'm going to show you Karen is talking. Yeah, I did teach English, but she said her mom taught in Henrico. Is that right? Oh,
That's awesome. Yep. And her
oh, that
mom
is
talked to
neat.
her about those things. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. It's a lot.
Oh,
It's a lot.
oh.
And when you talk about different cultures that
Mhm,
because and you can look at me and look at my age. When I
mhm,
went to school, I went
mhm,
to school with all Black children. So
mhm,
that's what I knew. That's what I
mhm,
knew. Because you can look at my
mhm,
age. I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina.
mhm,
Um, Segregation, and that's what I knew.
Mhm.
And then, you go and you get a chance to be around other cultures, other people.
Mhm.
And everybody's got to learn how to appreciate everybody,
Mhm.
appreciate what all the cultures bring. And that's what happens in
Mhm.
schools. And
That's
it's
right.
not, and again, as I'm working with these school divisions, it's not
Mhm.
good enough to have Hispanic culture night.
That's
It's
right.
not good enough to have Black History Night.
Mhm.
We have to engage in each other and culture and
Mhm.
appreciate each other every day, all day.
That's right.
And that happens in the classroom.
Mhm.
So when the math teacher, the English teacher, the history teacher, the science teacher is
Mhm.
doing an activity, if the science teacher is doing an activity on pollution,
Mhm.
then talk about how pollution has impacted Central America.
That's right.
Talk about how pollution has impacted large cities in the United
Mhm.
States where lots of
Mhm.
poverty is.
That's right.
Talk about those things. That's what gets our kids smarter. That's
That's
what
right.
gets our kids more intelligent, and
Mhm.
and so that they can engage in doing things that help others and help
That's right.
people, and they know. So they're just not knowing what pollution is.
Mhm.
Um, or the English teacher can give that assignment that, oh, hey, I know in science you all study pollution, let's see how you could write to your senators about
Mhm.
how you could change the effect of pollution in major cities on poor people, those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
that's how we get to be appreciative and understand cultures. And yeah, because yeah.
Yeah, I think as teachers, that's something we need to be aware of and
Hmm.
encouraged to do. And
Yes,
it doesn't take any
it
extra
doesn't.
time to be
It
able to do
doesn't.
that.
It doesn't.
If you're showing pictures of whatever, have
Yes.
a variety of
Of
different
pictures.
cultures.
Yes,
And,
yes,
say,
yes.
now, if we lived here,
This
then
would be the
this is what
situation.
would happen. Or
Yes,
if we
yes,
lived here, and
yes,
as you're selecting as English teachers, selecting books from
yes,
different cultures, bring
yes.
it all in.
Bring it
And,
all in.
um, I've got Kim. She says she was involved in a reading program through her former job. And she
Mhm,
said most of the children could read, but they were on the bubble. She said
mhm.
half an hour made a difference in their reading
Yes,
scores. Yes, it does.
yes. And then when we talk about what to do in the summer, that's the
Mhm.
cheapest thing we can do is go to the public library. And
Absolutely.
that's the cheapest thing. Go take a trip to the public library. You can check out as many
Mhm.
books or not. Just sit there and read the books. And all the read aloud experts say that children love to be read to from 0 to 18. They
That's
love to
right.
be read to. And
Mhm.
look at us as adults, and we've got these books on tape. It's not called books on tape. I know that
Audible,
it's
yeah,
Audible. Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and everybody loves to be read to. So,
Mhm.
just go to the library, sit there for 30 minutes and read a couple of books to the children, check
Mhm.
them out. Um, that's a great thing to do during the summer.
It is.
And it doesn't cost a thing because you've already paid for it in your taxes. So
Absolutely,
it doesn't cost a thing.
absolutely.
Yep.
I we That's one of the things we do during the summer. The
Hmm.
kids laugh, and they go
Yeah.
to the Myrtle Beach Library as much as they go
No,
here,
that's
you
right.
know?
Exactly.
I'm there
Exactly.
every week because I like to read,
Me
and you
too.
all are gonna
Because
read.
yes, and I was like, Lord, girl, you are spending so much money going in Barnes and Noble. Get back
Mhm.
to that public library.
Yes.
So I was taking the kids, but then I was buying my
Mhm.
own stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah,
going
yeah.
there. So yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
the good thing is that we are helping, I think, helping the libraries in that.
Yes,
I know a lot of times I request books,
yes, I do
and
too. I do.
books that we may not have at a particular location. And
Yes,
so once it's been requested a certain number of times, then they make
they'll
sure they
get it.
have it on the shelf,
That's
which is
right.
always good. But you know what? You have just blessed me today. I have certainly enjoyed this
Me
conversation.
too,
And you know
Leona.
what? We're over an hour.
I
So
know. I
this
looked
has
at the
been
time and I
so
said,
much
"Oh Lord,
fun.
I have talked and talked and talked and talked and talked, and as I enjoy talking, so it's all good, and especially when it's talking about kids and families, and
Absolutely.
yeah, because
Absolutely.
what's gonna make our world better,
Absolutely.
better
It
one.
has to start. I think as we look at education, as we look at the world, I'm hoping that as educators, that new teachers who are going into the field, and if
Hmm.
you're next door to a new teacher in the field, help them, give them kind words, and let them know how important what they're doing is to the
Yep,
world we live in,
yep.
because it's not just a job. We are making a difference day
Making a
by day.
difference. Making a difference.
And we are trying to grow these little people, our big people in some cases, that we have in our classroom, which is always a pleasure. But at the same time, we're learning so much too.
Hmm.
And we just have to be open to that. And so I certainly appreciate you and the job that you've done, just within our county. But I know that your voice travels. And I think all of our voices travel,
Yeah,
in that as our children who have been under our voice move on into life, they're carrying a bit of us with them.
yep.
And that's something I take personally.
I do too.
I take it
I do too.
personally. I want them to carry a little bit of me with them.
Yep.
And so this has been just a wonderful conversation.
Yes.
And for those who are on, if you have people who who are trying to navigate the educational world, first of all, you want your kids to have fun. It's the summer.
Yes. You want
But
them to
if
have fun.
Yeah, but if they need help,
Yeah.
let them work during the summer, kind of combine the two.
Mhm.
And if they need tutoring, whatever it is, there
Mhm.
are certainly opportunities out there. Some are free,
Yes.
and you don't. Some things you can have that your children do that are free,
Yes.
and certainly take advantage of those. And
Mhm.
look at your library
Yeah.
and see what they're offering for the summer, because they usually have lots of programs that
They
are
do.
available. Your neighborhood Y,
Mhm.
whether it's the YM, YW, whichever it is, they
That's
have a lot
right.
of programs, and they're not real expensive
They
that
aren't.
you can get involved in.
Mhm.
Or call a few of your kids in, and you start game night or game
Yeah,
afternoon
that's
and
right.
with your kids, and
It
bring those
happens.
kids
It
in,
is. Just be
because
sure to remember their strengths too.
that's right.
Remember what their strengths are. If their strengths in music or speaking or
Mhm.
writing or whatever, try to do a lot with that too this summer
Yes.
so that they
Yes.
can build and just it's not hard because it's a strength, it's a
Mhm.
passion, it's good, and
That's
they'll
right.
enjoy doing it. Yeah.
That's right. I agree. So, Mila, thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank you
you,
again.
Leona. This was a
And
lot of fun, and
it was fun.
your guests, and all the friends. It's wonderful. It's just nice to in the middle of the day to have this time to just talk.
It is. So, to those of you who are here with us, and I want you to just know that we enjoy being at the lunch table. And I've always said, you never know what our conversation is going to be, because at the lunch table, every little pair of folks that you have at the table, they're talking about something else.
That's right.
And so we bring things to the lunch table that are going to inspire, that are going to encourage, and I'm looking forward to next week. Not next week, because next week is Memorial Day.
That's
And
right.
so we're going to have some memorial things going on next week. But the following week, we have another guest who is going to be coming in. And I know you're going to want to have a seat at this lunch table for her. So have a blessed and wonderful day, ladies. And gents, because I know there's some gents out there.
Yeah, awesome.